It's Thursday, Yud Tes Teves, Tovshim Pevov, Yom Hey Pasha Shmois. We want to learn together Zera Shimshon here, Ois Test. And before we learn this beautiful piece in Zera Shimshon, Zechusa Yagan Aleinu, we maktem a very famous Rebbe Chonon Wasserman that explained to us why was it that throughout the ages, around Pesach time, there was a terrible, terrible decree called blood libels. And the Goyim would mistakenly think that Klal Yisrael used blood of a Christian child to mix into the matzahs, and this was very costly for Klal Yisrael. Hundreds and maybe thousands of Yidden were butchered and murdered as a result of this myth. What's the understanding of this mistake? As we know, everything that happens here is sourced back in the spiritual world. So what Avera caused us to be nichshel into this terrible, terrible decree, said Rabbi Chonon Wasserman, there was a blood libel back in the day, which may be the first blood libel which took place by Mechiras Yosef. The brothers of Yosef HaTzadik sold Yosef to Mitzrayim, and then they went ahead and they dipped his ketoines into blood, and they told Yaakov Avinu, Toraf Yosef. Yosef was ripped apart by a wild animal, and this is his blood on his ketoines. This was a blood libel. This wasn't true. This was a myth. And says Rabbi Chonon Wasserman, whenever Klal Yisrael have a pagam in Achdus, they are not unified the way they're supposed to be. They don't live kish echad belev echad. They talk lashon hara about each other, and they don't forgive each other. And chas v'shalom, there's hatred. Then that is ma'orer, this hate of Mechiras Yosef, which was a pagam on their level in Avas Yisrael, and that brings the blood libels that happened, Rahman al-Islam, throughout the dark days surrounding the Heilige Yom Pesach. But the question is, why did it happen around Pesach time? What's the connection with Pesach? That then it was Nisoirei, this kitrug of Sinas Yisrael, of the lack of Achdus. Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we will find a beautiful answer in light of this nifla digger shtickle in Zera Shimshon here, Ois Tes, Pasha Shmois. Let's learn this together, and we'll get an understanding in the avodah of these parishes, the avodah of Pesach, and the avodah how to bring geula. Zog the heilige Zera Shimshon Zechusa Yagad Aleinu. The Medrash says the beginning of the revelation of the geula happened when Moshe Rabbeinu saw the burning bush. V'hinei hasneh boya be'esh. Moshe saw the sneh, the bush, burning with fire. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu. Says the Eibishter to Moshe Rabbeinu, what brought Golos Mitzrayim was the hatred that the brothers had to Yosef HaTzadik. Yordu b'Mitzrayim, that caused Golos. Ubishviloi ani nigla bisneh, and because of Yosef HaTzadik, I will be megala myself in a sneh, the egal oisam, and I will redeem them. Shnema, the pasuk says that the geula comes in the schus of Yosef. Wie steht in Tilim Kapitel Ein Zayin. Ga'alta bizroya amecha, the Eibishter redeemed with his zroya, with his arm, Klal Yisrael, Bnei Yankov, the Yosef Selah. We're going to redeem Bnei Yankov, the Yosef Selah, which means because of Yosef, we are going to be redeemed. That's the Medrash. Hashem was begat in the snare, and the Medrash says it has to do with the brothers that sold Yosef HaTzadik, and because of Yosef, I will redeem them. I don't understand this chazal. What's a shaychus? The snare, because the brothers sold Yosef. Question number one. Question number two. The Medrash is telling us that the Yeshua, the Geula, comes in the schus of Yosef. The pasuk says, "Bnei Yankov Yosef Selah." Hashem redeems the sons of Yaakov and the sons of Yosef. Where do we see that it's in the schus of Yosef per se that we got the Geula? In Kelei Hayas Chus Yosef Lechadei, It doesn't say the Gula came in the schus of Yosef. V'oid ma'inyan zeh in pasuk v'nei asneh boy ve'esh. What's this got to do with a burning bush? This Medrash needs an explanation. Dr. Zera Shimshon, allow me to explain. Yeshloima, the Kavanas Medrash ulataretz. The Medrash is coming to answer. Lama davke nigla kodesh baruch hu lemoishe b'sneh. Why did the Eibishter reveal himself in a burning bush in this sneh of all trees? What's the message? What's the inner meaning? What's the deeper understanding? Sneh is spelled Samach Nun Hey. That's the sneh. But we know from Chazal, Samach and Sin are interchangeable. Sneh is also the word sinner, Lashon sinner. Shekashem shegolus Mitzrayim bo ba'avoin mechiras Yosef. The entire golus of Mitzrayim came as a direct result of the fact that the brothers sold Yosef to Mitzrayim, and there was sinner amongst the brothers. As the Megala Mukas writes, why were we in Mitzrayim 210 years? Lefi shashvatim gormul aviem lisabel chaf beis shanim. The Shvatim caused, by selling Yosef Atzadik, that Yaakov was misabel for 22 years. There were 10 Shvatim. Each one was a chelik of the cause of 22 years of Yaakov's tsar. So let's make the math. 10 Shvatim, 10 times 22. Each one of the Shvatim was Goyrim 22 years. 22 times 10 is 220 years. So really we should be in Mitzrayim 222 years. And Lafisha Mesa B'chutz La'aretz Kala Asara. The Shvatim got punished. They all passed away in Mitzrayim. So that took off 10 years. And we left now with 210 years. Started 220. The Misa of the 10 Shvatim in Golus in Mitzrayim was Mesakein 1 year for each Shevet. And therefore, Golus now is only 210 years. The Nishtai Begolus came Redu Shana. Shemhacha Nigla B'Sneh. So we're starting to understand this Medrash. The Eibishter revealed himself in the sneh to send a message. Sinner was the cause of this Golus. And we're going to get out when we have Avos Yisrael. Lirmois, Shetama Golus Hoy B'Shvil Sinner. And therefore, now that the 210 years are coming to an end, therefore we are now worthy of having Gula. That's the beginning of this Medrash, and that's the understanding of the revelation in the Sneh. We still need to add another dimension to this Chazal. Who said the Golus was caused because of Mechiras Yosef? There's another reason that Kadmoinim give what caused the Golus. The Kosev Alev Aryeh Resh Pasha Shmois. The Mekabonim tell us there was another pagam that needed the tikkun, and that caused Golus. What was that? Shebishvil Shehevi Yaakov Lashon Targum Torah. Yaakov brought in a word in the Heilige Sefer Torah that was Aramaic, and that was the pagam in the purity of the Torah that brought Golus. As it says in the pasuk, "V'yikra lo lavan yigar sadusa v'Yaakov kara lo galeit." This word yigar sadusa is a word in Aramaic. This was brought because of Yaakov's bris with Lavan, and that was a chait, a pagam, on the level of Yaakov Avinu, and we have to be masakin that by going to Mitzrayim. Yaakov Gorimzeh, he made this bris, and that caused that a word Aramaic should be in the Torah. Zera Shimshon, the pasuk says, "For Yisrael name." When they sold Yosef Atzadik, Yosef was in the pit. For Yira, and they saw in Archis Yishmaelim, they saw Yishmaelim coming to take Yosef Atzadik to Mitzrayim to begin the Golus. Where were they coming from? Migilad. The Shorish was that Galeid experience that Yaakov called it Galeid. Lavan called it Yigasadusa. Shakara Yaakov Lamashkar Lavan Yigasadusa, and that was the cause of Golus. And they saw this Galeid. We say in the pasuk, and we say it in the Godah Shal Pesach, Arami Oived Avi, the Lush Aramaic. That brought us to Mitzrayim. And we say in the Godah Shal Pesach, Vayeret Mitzrayim onus al pi hadibur. Why do we go to Mitzrayim? Because of that dibur of Aramaic that wasn't Lashon HaKodesh, that was brought into the Torah. The Haina dibur shel Arami shevi v'Torah v'tamhu. And a deeper understanding, what does this mean? The language of Targum is miyuchad to the dark side. Malach Hashares don't understand Aramaic because Aramaic is not sourced in Kedusha. And that's the whole Golus. So why did the Eibishter reveal himself in a sneh? If the reason is because of Mechiras Yosef, the world of sinner caused the Golus, makes sense. But now we have a new understanding that Golus is caused by Aramaic. So what's that got to do with this snare? Medrash, this is understanding. The Medrash concludes, Yosef Tzadik is the reason why Hashem's megala in the snare to get out of Golus. Meaning, listen to this. If you say another reason, nevertheless, we'll understand why the Eibishter reveals in the snare. Yosef is one that was mesakein, that fixed the problem of speaking Aramaic. Yosef didn't want to speak in Mitzri language. What did the Mitzrayim call Yosef Tzadik? Eshes Petifa called him Hevelani Ish Ivri. He speaks Ivri. Samashkim says, B'shomitonu Nar Ivri. He's speaking Hebrew. Shafila l'shenenu einamake. Doesn't know our language. He speaks Lashon HaKodesh and he sticks to that, even in Mitzrayim. Void ba Gavriel v'limdo shivim lashon. Gavriel taught Yosef Tzadik 70 languages. They sheyochel am in Paroi. Aval chutz mizeh, he never spoke any other language other than Lashon HaKodesh. V'zeh that the pasuk says, Yomi Yosef alechav ani Yosef. When Yosef was trying to prove that he is pure and clean, he says, I'm Yosef. And he said, how do you know that? I'm speaking Lashon HaKodesh. And the way I speak Lashon HaKodesh is the way it's supposed to be spoken. Absolute purity. And then he says, L'chein. Once Yosef says, I was makpid on my speech, L'chein, v'galatem la'avi es kol kevoidi, u'mehartem v'radtem es avi heina. We're going to bring Yaakov down here. Yaakov shouldn't feel bad that he was the cause of Golus. Tell Yaakov, he has a son called Yosef Tzadik that was Mesakin that Pagam. And Yosef, Venanechem Royos, Kipi Hamadabar Lechem, Shriani Tekanti Apagam, Shaloshanisias Leshoini, Shafbi Shisa Oimid Besach Mitzrayim. I didn't speak their language as much as possible. He refrained from speaking Egyptian, and he spoke Lashon HaKodesh. V'zeh, v'shvila ani nigle v'sneh v'egeloisam. Yosef is the one that brings Geula. Kloima, lefi shehem b'nei Yaakov neschai v'golos. Read the pasuk. Ga'alta b'zroya amecha b'nei Yaakov v'Yosef sela. B'nei Yaakov brought Golos. V'Yosef tikein. Yosef fixed it. Uv'schus negalu. V'zeh, b'nei Yaakov v'Yosef sela. What's the shaykhs to the sneh? Explains the Zera Shimshon. Rashi says, "Kashem shor isa sneh oisa shluchusi v'anene ukol." The sneh is burning, but it doesn't get consumed, and it's burning and it's burning and it's burning, but it's not getting destroyed. Kach telech b'shlechusi ve'incha nizoik. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, "Don't worry that you will be harmed by going to Paroi, going to lions' den. No, you can stay pure." You can stay holy and you can stay safe. Adds a Zera Shimshon. So we see the sneh is the message of somebody keeping his shlichus 100%. Although it's a danger zone, although it's scary, although there's a fire burning, but I do the shlichus of Hashem and I stay who I am. V'af onunema. Beautiful insight. Yosef was in Mitzrayim and the place was burning with Tumas Mitzrayim. And he watched himself not to get consumed by the fire and the tiver and their environment and the psoiles and the zaham of Mitzrayim. Hashem revealed himself in the snare to say, you know how you're going to get out of Golus? We had a Yosef Tzaddik. Who Yosef Tzaddik Shemot b'tzidkoi? There was a fire, and there was a taiva, and there was an influence. Yosef wasn't consumed by all that. So we have two understandings here in the message of snare. One is snare is the sinner, and Yosef that didn't have any sinner. He's the shirish of the geula. The second understanding is Yosef is the source of geula because he doesn't get consumed by Tumas Mitzrayim, by the land that surrounded him, and he stayed pure. And we can add, with this we understand this Rabbi Chanan Wasserman on a new level. Comes the time of Pesach, or when we read the parashas of Yetzias Mitzrayim, we get inspired, and we're supposed to be mechazik ourselves in Avas Yisrael. Mechiras Yosef came as a lack of Avos Yisrael. Gulas Mitzrayim comes when you have Avos Yisrael. Hat gesagt der heilige Rabbi Chanan Wasserman, if in the time of Pesach there's a pagam in Avos Yisrael, then Rachmanan Islam it's ma'orei the Mechiras Yosef, and that brought blood libels. That brought this kitruk that didn't used to have a very happy Pesach at all. And his history tells us Pesach was a yontif that it's hard to say those words, but people were terrified and they were nervous. They didn't enjoy it because there's a lack in Avos Yisrael. These parashas are a time to mechazik in Avos Yisrael, a time to mechazik in Achdus, a time to mechazik in purity, a time to emulate Yosef Tzaddik and everything Yosef Tzaddik stood for, and then we were zoicha to Geulas Mitzrayim and Geulas Olamim. May the heilige zchus of the Zera Shimshon Yogin Badenu Levasha B'dva Yeshua Barachmim, and maybe he be mashpia refuas and Yeshua's lanu lechadi Yisrael. Amen. A good Shabbos.